The tireless efforts of the Super Earth Ministry of Defense have once again produced a group of highly experimental weapons and gear in their never-ending effort to equip Helldivers with the most lethal, and of course completely tested and safe, gear the foes of Super Earth have ever faced. With that in mind, this is Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear, fresh back from the testing grounds, and with the release of the control group Warbond, many divers are wondering if it's everything it looks to be. Today, with the early access granted to me by Arrowhead HQ, I'm taking a brutally honest look at all of the control group offerings to see if it's a buy or pass. Under the 10 rules for Helldivers Survival Handbook, right after when in doubt, shoot, and shoot some more, is rule number 2, to sport the very finest and primary weaponry featuring not only death and destruction, but utility. And the Helldivers Experimental Weapons Division has now approved for use the 𝗙𝗫 variable. Featuring a respectable base damage of 85, 7 starting mags, each with 49 rounds and exceptionally low recoil, the variable is essentially the Helldivers equivalent of a ballistics laser beam. Super Earth's finest engineers have equipped the variable with a slew of options, including 3 zoom factors, 3 fire rates including 300, 550, and 750 rounds per minute, and completely unique to the variable, auto, volley, and total fire modes. Through basic training, all Helldivers are uniquely trained in the use of automatic weaponry, but volley mode now makes use of the variable's 7 barrels, firing 1 round through each, but all barrels at once, effectively converting the variable into a slug-firing shotgun. For those divers strong enough to survive the kick of a behemoth charger on juiced-up stems, the variable also features total mode, which divides all remaining ammo left in the current magazine and fires all of it through the weapon's 7 barrels at once. Expect to be firmly placed on your keister if you decide to fire this weapon on a full mag, dropping 49 shots downrange at the exact same time. Experienced divers will learn to avoid targets while squeezing in reloads, which average 3.35 seconds with or without ammo remaining in the drum. Through extensive testing and experimentation, the variable is a weapon not exceeding others in the Helldivers' current armories for sheer power, but excelling at stability and utility. Mixed results were seen while using full mode firing, while the best results were achieved with either full auto at 750 RPM or in volley mode if the weapon is allowed to settle after each shot. Expect a full report, scorecard, and a basic rating towards the end of this transmission, but for now, let's shift our focus to the 𝗙31 Arc Grenade. Making use of highly experimental rebounding-inducing coatings, the 𝗙31 Arc Grenade can bounce across a surface, bounding from position to position while emitting its highly charged internals. Helldivers will need to retrain their highly advanced and incredibly strong throwing arms to learn to not overshoot their intended damage zones and also to use their eagle vision to be on the lookout for 𝗙31 grenades being kicked or bouncing back in their general direction. Featuring a large outer radius factor of 10, these portable arc canisters emit strong electrical blasts that, like other Helldivers arc weaponry, can chain between enemy targets. For those divers brave enough to ride the lightning, the first ever Arc Grenade to enter the Helldivers arsenal is both packed with utility and overall strength, proving itself wave after wave of arc blasts, liquefying targets and divers alike. Coming from the very heart of the dark scourge of the Illuminate and capable of harnessing their anti-democratic dark matter, the Lift 182 Warp Pack is 99% badass and 10% scary as hell. Helldivers have long mastered the ability to hover and jump short distances using well-proven booster technology, but the Warp Pack is capable of creating diver-sized wormholes, allowing the most daring divers to traverse short distances through the folding of space and time. Basically, everything scary as hell from the Event Horizon movie, minus the weird burnt people missing their eyeballs. If you know, you know. Anyways, once a diver has mastered the basics of the warp pack, more advanced techniques such as warping directly into a mob of enemies and using the dark matter wormhole aperture to damage them can then be achieved. The warp pack also allows the movement through solid matter such as barrier walls, making city traversal even easier. But be forewarned, this technology is both experimental and highly inconsistent. Rapid-fire uses without allowing it the time to stabilize can backfire on overzealous divers, resulting in all the bad parts of Event Horizon coming true. What would a highly untested and completely unverified gathering of super Earth gear and weaponry be without the finest in Helldiver drip, outfitting divers with some of the most bizarre and high-tech armor yet seen to date? Straight from the forges of the Heavy Arms Division of Helldivers HQ, the medium-weight AD-26 Bleeding Edge and heavyweight AD-49 Apollonian, along with the lightweight AD-11 Livewire, available in the Helldiver Superstore, provides Helldivers the ultimate last-chance scenario with its completely diabolical armor passive of Adreno-Defibrillator, bringing a Helldiver back from the dead just once through the use of vital fluids that will soon be declassified, assuming that a diver's torso and legs are still attached. Additional effects include enhanced stim duration and, of vital importance considering the other armaments on tap, 50% resistance to arc damage. For divers looking to lock down a specific location and turn their foes to liquids, the new ALAS-98 Laser Sentry is standing by to cut friend and foe in two. Featuring an experimental heat sink allowing the LAS Sentry to fire non-stop for extended periods, through the use of fully upgraded ship modules, a Helldiver can expect to use this laser-fied scalpel and receive another in roughly 128 seconds. And now the ultimate test of a thrill-seeking Helldiver's maxim, the 𝗨48 𝗙𝗵𝘁 has arrived from the fires of Mount Helldoom as a completely unknown piece of tech. Posing as a purifier juiced up and in bazooka form, the 𝗙𝗵𝘁 is an unruly piece of weaponry, allowing for multiple charged up shots from a single mag that will require a diver to take a knee to reload it or risk blowing out their sciatic. As further evidence of how experimental and completely unrushed this piece of tech truly is, there is no safe mode equipped on the weapon, making it unsafe at almost every charge level. However, with its heavy armor-penetrating plasma blast, and if a diver has the courage to ride the charge levels up to the shoot now or forever hold your peace audible warning, the 𝗙𝗵𝘁 can do large but inconsistent levels of damage, even allowing for visible AoE blast zones. But now it's down to the final countdown. This Helldiver's brutally honest thoughts after testing this wild assemblance of experimental weapons and gear, starting off with the variable primary. Now, I've often said that I love utility in my weapons, and the variable gives a Helldiver, who's willing to use it, toggles for RPM, modes, and even zoom. Outside of struggling to get the full fire mode to connect with targets, the multiple RPMs along with the volley and full auto modes were enough to keep me interested in it. It's a very stable weapon, even when fired at range, with decent base damage and a lot of ammo on tap, and I wouldn't let the fact that it's light armor pen get in the way of maining it for yourself. I wouldn't rate it as S tier, but somewhere in B+, maybe A- tier would be appropriate. Next are the 3 new armor sets featuring the 3 passive combo, including that new passive of Adreno-Defibrillator. And while on paper, this last stand concept sounds great, in practice, it is insanely limited and very restrictive. Once you are downed, and assuming your corpse is still in one piece, your newly revived Helldiver form is inflicted with a seriously rapid bleed-out effect that cannot be removed. You're essentially a Helldiver zombie that is rapidly losing blood and must constantly pop stims to stay on your feet. Now, not only is that bleed out extraordinarily fast, but your newly revived diver is restricted to half walking, slightly staggering without the option to sprint, making you a barely mobile target. Depending on how many stims you have on tap and if you have a diver in proximity willing to resupply you will dictate how long your zombie Helldiver form walks the planets, but I can tell you it's not going to be for very long. As is, there's a very specific case use for this armor in cases that you are downed within sight of the extraction shuttle and need that second chance to make it to the ramp, but outside of that, in its present form, the Adreno defib armor passive is a hard pass, which is a shame because the concept for this armor, along with that pleasing drip, makes it desirable to equip. While the laser sentry is active and able to fire its beam and has not yet overheated, it seems to do a respectable amount of damage, but if it happens to have the misfortune of locking onto a heavily armored enemy, which sentries often do, expect it to overheat after continuous use and then to be quickly dispatched and destroyed. Now, if you can protect it and remove those walking meat shield enemy variants, the last sentry is an interesting piece of equipment I may weave into my future builds, especially when I'm looking to cut through packs of enemies or just to light them on fire with the laser effect itself. Without a doubt, the two hottest pieces of equipment, at least for me, were the Warp Pack and Arc Grenade. Now, I'm not much of a specialty pack user myself, but the Warp Pack definitely has a place on the battlefield, not only as an oh shit, break glass Helldiver movement enhancer, but also once you've learned the warp distances, you can inflict some damage on mobs by warping directly into their midst. That being said, and this may be a current bug, but I did die as well when attempting to warp and ending inside of heavy targets, so beware of that. The Arc Grenades are wild. They're messy and unpredictable, especially when they get bounced around, and all of this I loved. When you can lob them into mobs, they can deal a ton of damage, and seeing Alpha Commanders wriggle and pop in their radius never gets old. Even heavy targets like Chargers get staggered and locked in place, making them easy to flank and pop. Unfortunately, what I thought would be my favorite weapon of the bunch was sadly the worst, and I'm of course talking about the 𝗙_𝗏𝗏. The plasma blasts travel in a parabolic path. It's hard to hit targets at distance, requires a charge up, and also forces divers into a one-knee reload, all for a very inconsistent damage pattern. Now, for all those mechanics I just mentioned, you'd expect the 𝗙_𝗏𝗏 to be able to break a planet in half, and sometimes when it hits just right, it can, but more often than not, you miss a target that strafes a half meter this way or that at the last second, and even when you hit center mass on a target, the plasma blast seems to do nothing. I've also used it to hit a behemoth charger so hard it did a front flip, so yeah, the 𝗙_𝗏𝗏 does have potential, but if I had to sum up my time with it, I would call it consistently inconsistent. Also, the ADS scope seems to be way off, or either Arrowhead has baked in a random aim miss mechanic because you could be pointed directly at your target and the plasma projectile will just go slightly off center, this way or that. So overall, Control Group does have a ton of potential, especially if Arrowhead can refine it further and improve on those points I tried to express in this review, but at this point I know you're waiting for the final verdict. Is it worth your hard-earned super credits? And honestly, that decision to pull the trigger on this premium Warbond is yours to make, but I will say this. If you're looking for stronger primary weapon options, they are out there, like in the Democratic Detonation Warbond. There's also better armor sets, like those in the Force of Law Warbond and the Ballistic Padding Passive, which is peak versus the new chest bleed mechanics. But, and you knew there was a but coming in this breakdown, the Warp Pack makes some really unique playstyles possible, and the Arc Grenades can lead to some major areas getting locked down and absolutely destroyed. The variable is decent as a primary, if not wholly unique, while the 𝗙_𝗏𝗏 is, yeah, the real letdown here, at least for now. As always, thanks for watching this Super Earth approved Warbond testing review. And if you have any questions or concerns, make sure to drop a comment, and I will do my best to respond. If you happen to like the video, please take a moment to hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to stay up to date on all things Helldivers. We have channel memberships in place with tiers and perks for those of you wanting to take your support to the next level. And before we go, I would like to say thank you to all of those members out there who have already taken the plunge. Until the next one, this is Lieutenant 𝗏𝗁𝗍𝗓 signing off.